Hey yo, it's your homeboy, the realtor Emilio Mercado with eXp Realty. Super excited to touch on a new video for you guys. How much does it actually cost to buy a home? This is more catered to the first time homeowner, right? Kind of wanted to guide you guys as to what it takes and some of the things that are associated with, buying a property as a first time homeowner, right? And we'll touch on some of the things like down payment will be one of those, home inspection will be another, appraisal would be another, closing costs, and I'll touch a little bit on different programs like FHA and conventional like government programs and non-government programs, right? There seems to be like a misconception out there that, oh, I need to have an 800 score to get low interest rates, right? Or that I need $30,000, or I need to save for 2 years. And while some of those things are true, they tend not to be 100% accurate, right? Because it all depends on what programs are you qualified for. Each state offers different programs. So let's touch on number one, down payment, right? Which is the biggest question. How much money do I need? So in reality, we know that the banks, as the first time homeowner, will loan you 97 to 97.5% of a loan, right? What the heck does that mean, Amelia? Well, that means that technically all you need is 3 to 3.5% down. Well, let's break down the numbers. Let's just say that you end up with a $200,000, let's say $300,000 property, right? If we take 3% times 300, right? 300 times 3%, that's $9,000 that you'll need for down payment. Now, depending on the program, there's programs that will actually pay for the down payment for you. So it's sort of like a second loan, right? You kind of get your first loan, it's 97 to 97.5, right, from the banks. And then you could actually, depending on your state, you can qualify for a second loan that will help you pay for the down payment and closing costs, right? Those are some of the things that tend to be a misconception. You don't always need $20,000. Sometimes you just need $4,000, maybe $5,000 to help you, right, with putting a down payment. Because when we submit an offer, we always have to make sure we have some skin in the game. So I have some buyers that actually get them a house and they end up getting money back at closing. Why? Because they ended up putting $2,000 down and they get that money back at closing because the program that I fit them into actually got them money back at closing, right? Because they ended up putting $2,000 down and they get some money back. So they literally get a property 100% financing, right? So those are some of the things to sort of conversate with a realtor like me that could kind of communicate with these lenders and figure out what programs do they have that you can benefit from. Now, a lot of times I recommend, if you're using any government programs, try to get into a multifamily, right? So that within a year, you could probably get your single family home, right? Then that 2-family will pay off for that unit, right? For the mortgage of that home, plus the mortgage for the second property that you get. And you literally kind of live for free or almost no money from paying minimal expenses, right? Like, taxes, water, your water bills, and anything that's associated with a property, right? So then let's touch on the next subject, home inspection, right? Once you get an offer accepted, you want to do your due diligence and make sure you know what's going on with your property. So you do a home inspection. A lot of times, depending on the home, I'm a former contractor, I will recommend if you could waive or don't waive, right? It all varies the thick skin that you are willing to have, right? Some people I recommend to waive inspection to have a stronger offer. And some people will say, well, no, I don't want to do that. That's perfectly fine. But a home inspection, pretty much, it's not an inspection that will tell you whether you qualify for the house or not. A home inspection pretty much is going to touch on a couple of things. Mainly, the condition of your home, right? So one of the guys that I usually use is Jay McNulty as an inspector. He's a former contractor, so he knows a lot about a home, right? Building a house from the ground up. So he'll understand mechanicals, right? We're talking about electrical. We're talking about your furnace or your boiler. We're talking about your water lines. There's so many things that are associated, your ductwork and stuff like that associated with mechanicals within the household, right? You also have foundation. You have, your framing. You have, is your house settling? You have a roof. You had so many infrastructures that play a major factor in keeping your house intact, right? So this inspector pretty much plays kind of like somebody's inspecting your car, right? They tell you, hey, they check your car, they check if there's any leaks, they check if this, but they're not working on your house, right? They're not going inside the walls, they're not opening things, they're not moving things around. They're not allowed to touch things, by the way, in someone's property, because again, we are inspecting a property that you submitted an offer, but someone may probably live there and you're not the owner. So you can't just do any work on a property when you're doing a home inspection, right? So these are some of the things that an inspector actually does. And then once he completes his inspection, it takes about 2 to 3 hours, costs about, $300 to $600, depends on the size of the house, right? And within 24 to 48 hours, you get a report. Now, this report, we go over this report and we kind of say, hey, I like these things, but I don't like these things. I'm afraid of these things. What does this mean, right? Because the inspection report will come in different forms, right? It'll tell you the most important things that need to get addressed, some things to look in the near future, and some things that are great, right? So that's kind of like a home inspection, right? And then, of course, once we do an inspection or we waive an inspection, we let the lender know that we need to do an appraisal. Now, an appraisal will cost anywhere between $300 to $800. It depends, right? You don't pay it up front. That actually gets paid out of closing costs, and I'll touch on that towards the end. And an appraisal, pretty much what they do is we submit an offer on a $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 property. Let's just say $500,000, million. Does not matter what we offer. The important thing is that we're offering a certain number, right? What we feel we want to offer for a house. They accept the offer, right? And let's say we have a set number. The banks, right, the appraisal will come into the house. We'll call it an appraisal, order an appraisal for you guys. And they do an assessment of your house. And they determine if your house is worth what we're offering. And if not, we have to renegotiate those numbers, right? So let's say we offer $500,000 on a property and the property comes back at $490,000. So I have to call the realtor, say, hey, listen, it appraised at $490,000. It's up to them if they want to negotiate that price or put it back on the market. A lot of times when you get an FHA, a government appraisal, that appraisal sticks in that house for 6 months. So they can't sell, right, to someone else thinking they're going to get a higher price for an FHA loan because that appraisal is stuck to that house for the next 6 months. So even if they go and sell to someone else and it's another FHA loan or government loan, the appraisal will come back and say, hey, listen, there's already an appraisal on this property. It already appraised at this much. There's nothing we can do. That's the number. That's it. You cannot reappraise a value of an FHA appraisal. So that's something to take into consideration, right? So then if they don't, they come back. They could come back and negotiate. So these are some of the things that come into appraisal. We'll check the neighborhoods, the properties that are sold in the neighborhood. They're the ones that will determine if the offer that we made will get approved for the banks, the loan that you're all getting, or not, right? So that's kind of like the appraisal process. Sometimes you don't get to see the appraisal, the inspection. You do get to be in the inspection if you do choose to be there. And we'll go to the next, right? Closing costs. What are things that are associated with closing costs? Now, I will touch on taxes. I know taxes is one of those things that is a part of closing costs. Insurance. You have your attorney fees. You have your appraisal. Remember, I touched on your appraisal. Your appraisal gets done during, but the money gets withdrawn at closing. And these are some of the things that come out of pocket. The taxes doesn't come out of pocket, that comes out of closing. The attorneys, depending, it could go $800 to $1,200. It all depends on how much work the attorney has to do. And insurance, you should shop for an insurance. As soon as you get an offer accepted, you could shop around to different insurance companies to see who offers you the lowest insurance quote, and you could bundle it with your vehicle. Insurance, you got taxes, you have your bank fees. Your bank fees, I don't know what are their fees. A lot of times, depending on the lender, they'll charge whatever it is that they charge. Those are some of the fees that are associated. Your title search. So these are some of the things that are associated with closing costs. Sometimes a good rule of thumb is your closing costs are measured usually from 2 to 5% of the purchase price, right? And that's kind of your closing costs. Really, there's not much to it. If you do not go into a non-conventional loan, right? If you go into government loan, depending on the program, they have programs that will pay down payment and closing costs. Remember that. Whatever state you're in, figure it out. Talk to your realtor, talk to a couple of lenders. You're never stuck to one lender. When you get into a government loan, again, they're offering you more money. Basically, you're going to go to closing without no money. It's almost no money. And remember that you'll qualify for less. Now, if you put money down, right, you'll qualify for more money. Again, I am not a lender, right? So some of the things that I touched on, it's very important to speak to a lender so they can kind of guide you through the buying process, right? The qualifying process. But I'm just touching on some of the things that I've seen in my world. And I think there's a misconception where we all think we need a bunch of money, right? So you don't need that much money. Especially when you do government. If you go if you go non-government, which is a conventional loan, a lot of times you will need money to go to, for closing, which is 3% plus your closing costs, which is 2 to 5%. That's pretty much it for now. This is how much it actually costs to buy a home as a first-time homeowner. Again, they have programs for you, government programs if you do qualify. If you don't, then again, you don't have to save for 2 years. You could use your 401k if you choose to. There's many other ways that you could always choose to use your money, like a gift from family and stuff like that. If you do want to talk more about this, please feel free to call me 860-938-0549. Again, it's Emilio, your homeboy, the realtor from New England to the Sunshine State. I'm your first choice for real estate.